In the previous episode, we received a package and found a jumping spider named Rodrigo inside. We learned that he possesses high intelligence and incredible jumping abilities. During a demonstration, he covered a record-breaking distance between pencils. You also witnessed his first lightning-fast hunt for a fly and saw how the deadly venom of this adorable creature works. And now, what happens to him next? After so many trials, we decided that Rodrigo deserves his own personal terrarium. We found this acrylic enclosure with a large door that opens upwards and is held by place with a magnet. I ordered some terrarium decorations online, as well as this cork sheet which would serve as the background for our terrarium. Using scissors, I cut it into the right shape and placed the piece on the back wall so that Rodrigo would feel as if he were on the bark of a tree. Next, I placed a small stick, some plants and a tiny mushroom which I made out of modeling clay inside. After that, I decided to build a little bungalow for Rodrigo. For this, I took an ordinary walnut and drilled a neat hole in it using a rotary tool. Then I removed all the inside so it wouldn't grow mold. As a result, we ended up with this beautiful terrarium filled with different elements and a small bungalow made from a walnut shell. It was time for Rodrigo to enter his new home. "Come on, little guy, don't be afraid." And a few seconds later, after securing a safety line on my finger, he moved into his new place. At first, he got a little scared and hid among the plants. "Don't worry, this is your home, and there's no one else here." A few minutes later, he came out of the greenery and began exploring his new surroundings. I was really hoping he would settle into the walnut, but apparently he wanted to build a web house on his own, finding a secluded spot inside the terrarium. And then Rodrigo turned toward me and started staring at the couch. When I turned around, I saw a large spider searching for prey. That's when I wondered what would happen if I introduced him to Rodrigo. Maybe they would become friends and live together in the terrarium. On the other hand, I was worried that the other spider might not be friendly. Judging by the span of its legs, it was much larger than Rodrigo. Its limbs were covered in menacing sharp spines. It also had large fangs and as many as 6 eyes, though not as big as Rodrigo's. It would have been very sad if that spider had eaten our spider, because the filming would have ended right there. Nevertheless, I decided to take the risk. Just look at this. Rodrigo notices the other spider through the wall of a plastic cup and moves closer. He seems to understand that the opening in the cup is at the top and immediately climbs there, without even trying to make contact with the other spider through the plastic. Rodrigo gets inside the cup and approaches the other spider. Now you see how much bigger he is than our pet. I start to worry about Rodrigo. They move closer and Rodrigo attacks the intruder with a sharp jump. No, Rodrigo, you're not supposed to eat him. You are meant to play together and be friends. Surprisingly, the large spider barely resists and doesn't move its legs in an attempt to stab Rodrigo with its spines. Instead, it neatly folds them together and waits to fall asleep. Apparently, the venom works almost instantly. Notice how small the victim spider's eyes are compared to Rodrigo. Perhaps the spider couldn't even see or understand what was right next to him. After a couple of minutes, Rodrigo began chewing on the rear, the softest part of the spider. Possibly this is where the future offspring's eggs were located, which are very nutritious and beneficial to Rodrigo. I watched our spider's meal for a long time, waiting for him to start eating the legs and head of his victim. But he turned out to be smart enough not to touch the dangerous parts of its prey. After sucking all the fluids from the abdomen, he simply abandoned the body and turned to his terrarium. A few days later, Rodrigo started behaving a bit strangely. He barely moved, and the flyer released into the terrarium didn't interest him at all. I thought he might be sick, but it turned out this was just a certain stage in his life. He climbed into a corner of the terrarium and began making strange movements with the rear part of his body. If you look closely at the tail opening, where the silk comes out, you can see several small appendages that look like tiny fingers. In fact, the silk comes out of these appendages, not from a single hole. Thanks to this, the spider is able to produce a strand made up of many silk threads at once. Take a closer look. A spider's silk is so strong that if it were possible to make a rope as thick as your little finger, it could hold a 20-ton truck filled with bitcoins. A few hours later, we finally understood what Rodrigo was planning. He built a very large protective cocoon, where he would spend the next 5 days. He stayed there for a full 5 days without coming out. You can't even imagine how scared I was when I saw another spider next to him on the 6th day. It appeared to be not a spider at all, but Rodrigo's shed exoskeleton. Since the bodies of young spiders are constantly growing, their hard outer shell eventually becomes too small and restrictive. First, the spider opens a sort of a hatch in its exoskeleton located above its head. Over the course of about an hour, slowly crawls out through it. Eventually, it loses its armor. Its body becomes very soft and vulnerable. The spider stops hunting, because even a small fly could injure him with its legs. The next day, Rodrigo pushes his old exoskeleton out, so now we can examine it in detail. Just look at it. The shell resembles a real spider, only slightly disassembled. His head has come off the body like a lid of a jar. We can clearly see the 2 venomous fangs he uses to pierce his prey. Next to them, we can see 8 openings through which his limbs once emerged. And here is the head casing, which I'm about to separate. Check out how beautiful it is. It's like an armored helmet for a spider. Even the transparent lenses of the eyes remain embedded in it. I also managed to find footage confirming the 2 large eyes of a jumping spider are deeply elongated inwards and work like a miniature telescope, actively scanning the surroundings. And now, Rodrigo is about to face a true trial, one in which he must defeat 100 dragon larvae. Check this out. One of them is already eager for a fight, showing off its dangerous pincers. Look, Rodrigo, these are your enemies. And now, you must defeat them all. Rodrigo seemed a little shocked, but no one said this would be easy. We bring him to the arena. And he jumps in without hesitation, running across the heads of the dragon larvae and showing his dominance over them. Within a minute, he realizes that he isn't strong enough to defeat all of them, especially considering that many of them are several times larger than our spider. We decided to make the challenge a bit easier for Rodrigo and chose only one, the most aggressive larvae, for him to face. It immediately moves towards Rodrigo, but the spider doesn't hesitate and strikes first. The larvae manages to slip away. Rodrigo doesn't give up and launches a second attack, but once again the larvae withstands it thanks to its mass and tough armor, which Rodrigo is unable to bite through. The larvae charges straight at the spider, trying to land a blow, but the spider is faster and attacks her in the neck. A real battle begins. Rodrigo tightly grips the larvae's neck, trying to inject his venom, while the larva delivers a powerful strike with its tail and attempts to break free. In slow motion, we can see Rodrigo trying to dodge the blows, but the larvae is so strong that he can't stay on his legs. I was afraid that the spider might get injured or even die from such a powerful impact, since his exoskeleton was probably not fully hardened yet. He tried to hold onto the larvae with all his strength and inject as much venom as possible to immobilize her. A few minutes later, the venom began to take effect, and the dragon larva surrendered. Well done, Rodrigo. You managed to win. It was a hard battle against an opponent far larger than the spider, but thanks to his agility, strength and intelligence, Rodrigo managed to claim victory. Now he can enjoy his prey and restore his strength after molting, especially since he hadn't eaten anything for almost 2 weeks. The larva's armor was so dense that Rodrigo didn't even try to chew it. Instead, he simply sucked out all the insides through an opening he made in the neck, leaving behind nothing but an empty shell. I'm really looking forward to spring, when Rodrigo and I will be able to go into a real forest and see whether he can defeat true wild prey. And if this video gets more than 3 likes, we'll definitely make a 3rd episode about Rodrigo the spider.